All right, so going to be doing another comic review, another book sent to me by my friend Chris. Thank you as always, brother. Today we're going to be talking about Moon Knight, Fist of Khonshu, Volume 1, Leave Home. This is the continuation of Jed MacKay's Moon Knight run, which has probably been one of my favorite things at Marvel at the moment. I think it's underrated, too. I know Jed MacKay gets a lot of flack for, writing a lot of books. I know he's currently writing on X-Men, and I did like his first volume of X-Men. His Avengers, I got bored of. I don't know what it was. I feel like he was kind of playing his hand over and over again. But here, it really does feel like. I also liked his Doctor Strange, and Blood Hunt was a solid event. The tie-ins were too many. If you've been through all that, you know. Anyway, so I think even Jed MacKay puts his best work into Moon Knight. So it's good to be reading this series. Now, where we last left off, we did the two. I talked about Vengeance of the Moon Knight, which in that time frame, that talked about the death and resurrection of Moon Knight during the events of Blood Hunt. Khonshu was freed after his imprisonment in Asgard by the Asgardians happened during Jason Aaron's run. This allowed Khonshu to resurrect Mark Spector. And from there, Mark is now reestablishing the Midnight Mission, and he's also basically, reestablishing his place in New York, and also with his crew, which, if you guys remember, it's his brother, brother quotations, Dr. Badir, who is another priest of Khonshu called Hunter's Moon, his girlfriend Tigra, two vampires, Reese and Soldier, and finally the ever-loving 8-Ball, who is he's the best part. He is great. I love 8-Ball. And also his psychiatrist, Dr. Sternman, who's not really part of the main she's not really a major part of the group, but she's kind of, even Khonshu says she's either a disciple or not, she carries out my work. So yeah, I kind of consider part of the team. So in here, Mark is now reestablishing himself and also going after a drug peddler who's created a kind of drug called glitter. It may sound stupid, but it's actually a magical drug that if you try to kick the habit, you die. That's it. So this villain is named Fairchild, and Fairchild is interesting because he's not just a regular, he's not just your regular run-of-the-mill drug peddler. And even Mark makes a note of when Zodiac came after me, it was for philosophy. Same with the structure, the vampire pyramid scheme business, that was a thing. Fairchild is just doing this because it's business. It's kind of like he's trying to be a new kingpin. But then you find out Fairchild, the reason why he has a magical drug is because he's magical. He's from Asgard. He's an Asgardian, which I think is really cool because we don't get a lot of that. We don't get a lot of Asgardians who come to Earth to try to make their own name. I think that's kind of a neat idea. So Fairchild has corrupt cops who frame Moon Knight and force his group underground. Like I said, I really love Jed MacKay's Moon Knight. I've always loved Moon Knight as a character, but Jed MacKay's Moon Knight is always something that I appreciate. Just like we dig into Mark's psychology, we dig into Mark's mental state. I love the conversations he has with Steven and Jake Lockley. I love those back and forths, and I also love the use that Jed MacKay just digs out his rogues gallery. He uses for those who don't know, Moon Knight does have a very eclectic rogues gallery, and we do get to see a classic villain, Prism, here, or Cubist, excuse me, the Cubist, who's kind of like a bizarre kind of scarecrow-like character. We also get Vermin, who is more of a Spider-Man villain in here. That was fun. And the whole thing is more of Moon Knight he's kind of going through what typical superheroes go through. It's we just came back and now everything's upside down. We lost our home and things we got to run underground. But usually in those kind of storylines, Moon Knight is basically you'd think Moon Knight would like turn away people, but that's the kind of the beauty of Jed MacKay's work, is that no, Moon Knight has a family now, and they're all going to defend him and defend each other. I also really like Tigra's involvement in here, because Mark drops a line that would have been used as a throwaway. And this is what also I like about Jed MacKay's writing, is that he will go back, and he's clearly a huge Moon Knight fan, but also like he also uses plot lines that no one else is using. So there's a plot line in a comic called Avengers Inc., where Moon Knight showed up helping Janet and a robot called Victor Shade in a mystery. And Janet revealed Hank Pym's still alive, because it was believed Hank Pym died. Now, if you guys don't know, Hank Pym is the kind of biological father of Tigra's son, William, who William was born of a Skrull. I gotta go through all this. Was born of a Skrull impersonator of Hank Pym, but the DNA was so exact that Hank is basically that kid's son. And Hank and Tigra did have a relationship, and Mark was going to tell her, but then he died during the events of Black Spectre. Everybody got that? So obviously Tigra's pissed off at him, and Mark's just kind of reeling from the trouble he's caused, essentially. And the only way out is through, and boy does he go through people. I really do like this. I also love when Tigra is like beating on people, and Reese is like, dude, is this the only way superheroes get therapy? Like proper therapy is just beating on people, because like you're not thinking clearly, you're just using an excuse. So I love everyone's banter, and again, there's some great jokes, especially from 8-Ball, who's like, yeah, corner pocket, and this flips a car, and he's like, oh, they're alive, right? And he's like, you said you did it. Mark looks at him and goes, you said you've done this before and you've never killed anyone. He's like, yeah, totally. I freaking love this book, man. This is such a great comic series, and I'm excited to read Volume 2. Chris did send me that as well, and then Volume 3 comes out in, I think, April. But yeah, it's just good to read what is possibly Jed MacKay's best work, because I do think he is putting his best work in this comic. Anyway, so Chris, thank you once again, and also if you've read Moon Knight Fist of Khonshu, let me know in the comments below what you guys thought of it. Other than that, hope you all enjoyed this. I'm Mr. Multiverse. I'll see you next time in the Multiverse.